"Hold still." The words slipped from Jack Reed's lips, low and rough, before he could even make her out in the dim light. His voice cut through the quiet, sharp like a blade slicing leather. The prairie breeze carried ash and the bitter sting of black powder. Before him, a wrecked wagon lay half sunk in the dirt, its wheels turning, slowly, aimlessly. Jack, 42, weathered, once a scout for the Wyoming militia, now just a shadow, drifting from one dusty outpost to another. His mare huffed, restless beneath him. He dismounted, boots crunching into dry earth. He'd seen outlaw raids before, sure, but not like this. Not with satin, pale lace snagged on a thorn bush, and a flicker of motion in the gloom. From behind the splintered wreckage, a woman staggered out, barefoot, her bridal gown ripped at the edges, face streaked with grime and blood. "Please," she murmured, voice faint, trembling. "Don't let them catch me." For a heartbeat, Jack stood frozen. She seemed like a specter, a vision born of dread and starlight. Then her legs buckled. He caught her, just before she hit the ground, her shallow breaths trembling against his sleeve. "What happened here?" he asked, voice low. She tried to answer, but the words, they caught in her throat. "They'll come back," she whispered, barely audible. "If they see me alive." Her eyes fluttered shut, and she went limp. Jack carried her to the wagon's remains, leaning her against a broken plank. He dripped water from his canteen on her lips. They quivered, faintly. "Lila," she breathed, soft as a sigh. "My name's Lila." That name, it hit him like a stone, stirring something deep. Pity maybe, or regret. He glanced at her tattered veil, then at the charred earth around them. No tracks leading out. Whoever did this, they weren't far. The sun sank lower, painting the plains crimson. He draped his jacket over her, crouched by a small fire as the night grew cold. Told himself he'd ride at first light, drop her at the nearest outpost, and fade back into being nobody. But as the wind turned, carrying the faint thud of hoofs, his stomach knotted. Lila's eyes flicked open. "They're here," she whispered, voice tight. Jack stood, his pistol catching the fire's glow. 3 shapes crested the hill, riders, armed, moving fast through the twilight. He didn't know who they were or what she'd done, but one thing was clear. If he walked away now, he'd carry the guilt, forever. He thumbed the hammer back. "Stay low," he said, voice steady, "and breathe easy." Her trembling hand grazed his sleeve. "You don't get it," she said, voice breaking. "If they take me, you're dead too." Jack faced the approaching riders, jaw tight, eyes squinting against the breeze. "Ma'am, I've been dead before." The hoofbeats roared closer, and the night, it erupted in gunfire. "Ride!" Jack's voice sliced through the chill morning. Lila gripped the saddle, her torn veil trailing, like a flag that wouldn't yield. The prairie stirred awake, sunlight spilling gold over the hills. But behind them, the ground shook with hooves. 3 riders, no pause, hired men. Jack urged his mare down a rocky gully, each breath sharp, raw in his chest. "Who are they?" he shouted, voice battling the wind. Lila didn't answer. She just glanced back, her eyes holding fear, and something heavier. Shame, maybe. The riders closed in. One fired. The bullet buzzed past Jack's shoulder, close enough to burn. He cursed under his breath, wheeled, fired once. A pursuer slumped, tumbling into the dirt. The others fanned out, gaining ground. They hit a shallow stream, banks lined with sharp stones. Jack's mare hesitated. Lila's cry cut the air. He spurred forward, water spraying as they plunged across. Another shot rang out. Pain seared Jack's side, hot, biting. He gritted his teeth, pushed through. They cleared the stream. He turned, fired again. The second rider fell. One left. The leader, calm, unyielding. The man's voice carried over the wind. "You can't keep her hidden, Reed. Mr. Reed wants her back." Jack froze. Reed. His own name struck like a blow. He fired, missed. The stranger veered his horse, melted into the dust. Silence fell. Only the fading echo of hooves across the open plain. Jack dismounted, breathing hard, blood seeping through his shirt. He tore a strip from his sleeve, bound it tight. Leela slid from the horse, pale, shaking. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said, voice small. "Too late now," Jack muttered. He leaned against a boulder, waiting for his heartbeat to slow. "Who's Mr. Reed?" he asked finally. Her eyes widened, a flicker of anguish, like she'd prayed he wouldn't ask. "Don't," she whispered. "Please." He studied her, the way she avoided his gaze, the way her hands shook, not from cold, but from memory. "You know that name," he said softly. Leela nodded, tears cutting tracks through the dust on her face. "He's your brother." Jack didn't move. For a moment the world held its breath. The wind, the horses, the rising sun. Then he laughed, low, bitter. "My brother is dead." Leela shook her head. "No, he's alive. He's the law in Ironwood now, and he's the one I'm running from." Jack stared toward the horizon where the last rider had vanished, his jaw clenching like a man who'd just seen the devil shadow. He holstered his pistol. "Then the devil's hunting us both," he said. Far off, the prairie wind carried a faint whistle, sharp, cold, like a badge glinting in the dawn. The fire dwindled, embers floating up into the night, like fragments of a lost vow. Jack Reed sat quiet, watching Lila's face dance in the faint glow. Her hands shook around the tin mug he'd handed her, but her voice, when it came, was firm. "His name's Caleb," she said. "Sheriff Caleb Reed, of Ironwood." Jack didn't stir. The fire's crackle filled the silence. He'd buried that name long ago, with his mother's farm, his youth, every belief he'd held about right and wrong. "You're mistaken," he muttered, but the words, they sounded hollow, even to him. Lila shook her head. "He sent those men after me, said no one escapes him. Not a crook, not a bride." The word bride hit harder than the bullet in his side. Jack stood, turned away, staring into the dark plains. The wind stung his face. "He told everyone I was dead," Lila continued, softly. "Said you went rogue, shamed the family. But I know why he lied." Jack's fist tightened, memories surged. Caleb standing proud in their mother's house, badge shining. Jack walking away, younger, angrier, certain there wasn't room for two Reeds in one town. He'd left to keep his pride. Caleb had stayed to claim it all. "What did he do to you, Lila?" Her breath hitched. "He married me for the land, your mother's land. When he learned that the deed was still half in your name—" She trailed off, her voice breaking, sharper than any shot. "He said he'd track you down one day, make you sign it over. Dead or alive." Jack looked at the revolver in his hand, the same Reed pistol his mother had given him. A family's pride, she'd called it. Now it felt like a curse, etched in steel. The prairie was still, but Jack felt it, the past closing in like a pack of coyotes. He took a slow breath. "He wants what's mine," he said, "but he won't have you." Lila looked up, eyes gleaming. "You can't fight him. He owns Ironwood, the law, the people." "The law, it used to stand for something," Jack cut in, voice low, bitter, "before he wore it like a crown." She reached for his arm, her touch soft but sure. "If you go back, he'll kill you." Jack met her gaze. "Then I reckon it's time I stopped running." The fire popped, sending sparks into the dark. Somewhere beyond the hills a wolf howled, lonely, fierce, alive. Lila's lips parted, but no words came. Jack turned east toward Ironwood, the town he'd sworn never to see again. His voice was a whisper, lost in the breeze. "Family doesn't end with blood, Lila. Sometimes that's where the wound starts." He saddled his mare, and, as dawn broke pale over the plains, Lila saw he wasn't riding from danger. He was riding toward it. "Get off that horse, Jack." The voice came from the hilltop, cold, steady, a sound Jack hadn't heard in 12 years. Caleb Reed sat tall in the saddle,
his sheriff's badge catching the morning light, his shadow stretching across the dirt like a wound. Jack dismounted slowly. The prairie sprawled wide, empty around them. Between the brothers, 1,000 unspoken grudges hung, heavier than the heat. "Didn't think you'd come back," Caleb said. "Not after the mess you made." Jack brushed dust from his coat, met his brother's eyes. "You've been busy. Sheriff's badge looks good. Shame about the man behind it." Caleb's smile was thin. "I keep the peace, more than you ever did." "Peace?" Jack's laugh was dry. "You mean control." They circled each other, like hawks that once shared the same sky. Behind a cluster of boulders, Lila watched, trembling, hidden, but not unnoticed. Caleb's gaze flicked toward her hiding place, a spark of recognition in his eyes. "You took what's mine, little brother." Jack's hand hovered near his holster. "She ain't yours, Caleb. You lost her when you made her fear you." The sheriff's smile faded. "You don't know what she's done. She's stolen from me." "She ran from you. That ain't theft. That's living." For a moment neither moved. The wind carried sage and gunpowder. Then Caleb spoke, low, deliberate. "You always thought you were the righteous one. Let's see who's right." The world shrank to the sound of 2 hammers clicking. Jack's pulse steadied, the way it always did before a fight. He remembered his mother's voice. "Reeds don't back down." He'd believed it once. Now, he just wanted it to end. The shots came almost as one, 2 flashes, 1 breath. Jack staggered, smoke curling from his pistol. Caleb stood, blinking, blood spreading across his chest. "Not bad," the sheriff rasped, swaying. "Still can't kill your kin, though. Can you?" Jack lowered his gun. "Didn't come to kill you." Caleb sneered. "Then you came to die."
He raised his pistol again, but Leela stepped from the rocks, shouting, "Caleb, stop!" That pause, it was enough. A single shot cracked the air. Caleb froze, his gun slipping from his hand. He looked down, shock clouding his eyes. Leela stood, shaking, a small derringer smoking in her grip. "Forgive me," she whispered. Caleb sank to his knees, the dust claiming him. Slowly, Jack caught Leela as she stumbled, her body trembling against him. The sun climbed higher, fierce, unforgiving, bearing witness to blood and betrayal. Jack looked at his dying brother. "You brought this on yourself, Caleb," he said softly. "The law can't save a man who's already lost." Caleb's lips twitched. "Neither can family." With that, the sheriff of Ironwood took his final breath. Jack closed his eyes. For a moment, there was only wind and grief. But deep down, he knew the fight wasn't done. Ironwood was burning, and he had one last promise to keep. "Ironwood's burning," Leela whispered, her voice barely rising above the wind. From the hill, the town below glowed like a fading ember, smoke curling into the night, flames chewing through wooden roofs. Jack Reed sat his horse in silence, hat tipped low, the fire's light tracing lines of weariness on his face. He'd buried Caleb that morning, with his own hands, no words, no stone, just earth. Now the town that carried their family's shadow, it was dying too. "Caleb did this," Leela said, softly. "He set it to burn before he came for us." Jack nodded. Always had a way of leaving things worse than he found them. He slid from the saddle, checked his revolver's chambers, then looked at her. "You don't have to come. I started this. I'm done running." They rode into Ironwood, side by side. The streets were madness. Gunshots ringing between crumbling walls, men yelling, horses shrieking. Caleb's deputies, leaderless, had turned on each other, every door barred, every window glowing with fire. Jack's boots hit the dirt, his steps calm, the kind of calm that comes when you've lost all you thought mattered. He pushed through the saloon doors.
Inside, the fire's golden light danced across shattered glass and scattered cards. Behind the bar, a young deputy raised a rifle, hands trembling. "Sheriff said no one leaves alive," the boy stammered. Jack's pistol moved like thought itself. One shot, cracked. The boy dropped the rifle, fled into the night. Jack exhaled. "Go home, kid. This ain't your fight." He turned to Leela. Her gown was smeared with ash, dirt, her eyes fierce. "When this is over, what happens to us?" Jack looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had been a stranger in a torn bridal gown now stood with him, steady as any partner he'd ever known. "Don't know," he said. "Reckon we start fresh, if the fire leaves anything to build on." A crash shook the room. The ceiling buckled, flaming beams falling where Jack had stood. Leela yanked him back and they stumbled into the street, coughing, the air thick with heat and the roar of collapsing walls. At the edge of town, Jack stopped. The old sheriff's office stood untouched, and on the desk inside, unscarred by flame, lay Caleb's badge. He picked it up, turned it over. The metal was warm, the engraving dulled by ash. On the back, a single word, scratched deep: family. He stood still, for a long time, saying nothing. Then he tossed the badge into the flames. "Let the name burn clean," he murmured. Leela touched his arm. "You're free now." He met her gaze, eyes tired, but alive. "Freedom's a tricky thing, darling. Always costs something." They rode out of Ironwood as dawn broke. Behind them, the fire consumed what remained. A town built on greed, blood, turned back to dust. As the first light spilled across the prairie, Jack tipped his hat back, letting the breeze cool his scarred face. The past was gone, the horizon stretched wide, and for the first time in years, he didn't ride alone. If you enjoyed this tale of grit and redemption, please like and subscribe for more stories that bring the wild heart of the West to life. Your support keeps these tales burning bright,